Hello, everybody. How you doing? It's the Cheech and Manny show, and today we have a great episode on the greatest band in the galaxy. Who is that, Manny?
Rush.
Yes, and it is on the album Permanent Waves. We took
Sir.
a little, took a break. We did about four episodes on rap, which was so much fun
That was
with
fun.
with our boy Devontae, DJ
Shout out to Devonte. Shout out to him.
Devontae for being on the show and giving us your knowledge of rap. You are a historian, he really knew his shit. I was really impressed with him.
I was too. And anybody, comment below if you want us to bring Devonte back. We'll bring him
Oh
back.
yeah, yeah,
And topics too. Shout out to Mark because he gave us probably two more episodes from now on the we're gonna cover sampling. We'll talk about that
yeah.
in a future
Thank you,
episode.
Mark. Yeah, and that's going to be a good one. That's a tough one to research, man, because so many sample songs. The history of
So many.
sampling. Uh, and a couple more shout outs. Thank you, Joe Silkman, for the
Mm,
beautiful comments about me and Manny and our passion for Rush. Really means a lot. And hopefully,
yes,
maybe
sir.
one day somebody from Rush will hear this. That would
Honestly,
be
that'll be the dream if either Alex comments or Getty or anybody like
you,
their
you
producer.
Sim, you
You
Sims, Jerry
Sims,
Brown, Ray Daniels, anybody, these
e-
guys are still valid out there.
even a comment from the roadies or something. That'd
Any,
be
any,
amazing.
anyone. And then a couple more shout outs. I'm trying to remember to Glenn from the Temple for on the hip hop one. He brought some valid stuff up about the graffiti and about the beatboxing. I know it was
Yo,
Mark who talked about the
amazing.
graffiti. Yeah, Glenn talked about
He
the
made a
beatbox.
he made a really cool comment though, both of them.
Yeah,
Talking more on the old school old school hip hop culture stuff, which is
exactly.
awesome.
Yeah,
And again, shout out to all our friends at the temple, honestly. You
yeah,
know,
because everyone's supporting us and it's great.
deriving the priests.
Except the priest. Well, that's another story. But
Well,
and
speaking of priests,
yeah, um, and a special shout out always to Potter's Field, my band. Love
yeah,
you guys. You know. All right. So we left off at Hemispheres, which was Rush's most difficult album to record,
hmm,
and it turns out to be a huge success. Uh, the last art rock album for them, would you say?
I would say, yeah,
Yeah.
I would say
And
so.
and then always, they're stuck in that position like, well, what's next? That's what I love about Rush. What's next?
Hmm.
But what do they do? Well, Permanent Waves is full of new influences, new sounds, and
Hmm.
commercial radio friendly songs, which is
Yeah,
going to lead them to becoming the the legacy that they are in the 80s, and they don't ever have to look back. Being Rush, I consider a radio band like Boston or Zeppelin. There's always Rush
yeah.
always played on the radio. Oh, and Joe Silverman told me a great story when he was in college. He was just walking, said it was like a nice spring day, and he's walking by the dorm rooms, his first day at college or whatever, and he hears Tom Sawyer being cranked out the window by somebody, like right, when it was
Oh, that's
out.
amazing. Yo, just
Out.
imagine, yo, just imagine that. Like you've never, even if you were not a Rush fan or were a Rush fan, at
Yeah,
this point, you're out strolling, somewhere, and then from someone's speakers, you hear, "Wow," boom, like that
yeah.
beginning, you know, opening from Tom Sawyer, and I think like that's amazing.
I remember I got turned on to Tom Sawyer. It was probably in sixth or seventh grade. There was an album. It was called. I don't know why they were on it because they're not metal, but it was on Masters of Metal. It's a great
Hmm.
album. It had like Deep Purple. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Black Sabbath, Twisted Sister, and Van Halen. And it was like, remember K-Tel? You probably don't remember K-Tel. It was a record label that would put out compilations, and Tom Sawyer was on it. Now I already had Moving Pictures, and I loved it. I didn't listen to Tom Sawyer that much for some reason. I just kept going back to Limelight, Limelight, Limelight.
That,
It's
well,
right.
that's interesting. Well, that's interesting because when anybody here thinks of Rush or any band from the 80s, they think Tom Sawyer.
Hmm.
So that became the definitive hit. And no, but yeah, no, but Limelight, I would say, yeah.
But
I
on this,
I I heard Tom Sawyer first. I remember seeing on VH1 Classic the top 10 80 songs of all time, or top
yeah,
100, whatever it was a show. And then I saw um Tom Sawyer was like number 40 or whatever, and
yeah.
they were showing you that famous music video, that
Oh yeah,
live
yeah.
footage, right from
Exit
Exit
left.
Stage Left, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Incredible stuff. But we'll get.
incredible. But before, yeah, we're gonna get to that. But before we do,
Yeah,
I think we have to discuss. Well, before they go to moving pictures, Permanent Waves,
yeah. Permanent
and 1980.
1980. I would say the transitional album that is getting them to become who they are.
Agreed.
You know.
Agreed.
So
Transitional in the best way
best
possible.
way in a commercial way because they become
Yep.
commercial. Let's
Yep.
face it. Rush is genius because they become commercial where
Yep.
they can have a song that's catchy and then have crazy, insane musicianship going on.
Yep.
You know,
And not lose their integrity, because
right.
they're still hitting you heavy philosophy.
Hmm.
Um,
Now, bands
and
doing it before them, Kansas, Carry On Wayward Son, I think might be one of my like favorite radio songs because it's
oh, hands
progressive,
down,
oh, it's catchy, and
hands
not
down.
copied them, but it was going in that direction where you can
Yep.
have rhythm,
Yep.
time signatures and emotion. So a
Yep.
little bit about Permanent Waves. Came out in January 1980. Now I read this in a book. I don't know if it's true. It might have been the first album released in that year of 1980.
Mm.
Like, like out of all the albums, that was the first album to come out. This is an important fact. I don't know if you saw, you did tell me you saw the documentary. They choose a different studio called La Studios in Quebec.
Hmm.
Um, and this was like the Electric Ladyland of Canada. It basically, they had, shit, they had all the top equipment, top mixing boards,
Mm.
top recording stuff. So a lot of bands went there to record, and I have a list of them at the end. I'll talk about all these famous bands that did their albums there. If you get a chance, watch the documentary. It's on YouTube. It's just put in La Studios. On Anthem Records, produced by our man Terry Brown. So
Hmm.
two, two singles, Spirit of the Radio and Free Will. Now, this is why this album is so important. It charted in Canada at number 3. Now that's fucking huge.
Canada number 3. It's amazing.
Yeah. I'm probably behind who Celine Dion. I don't even know if she was around back then.
I don't think
Uh
she was.
no. And then US number 4. Okay, so
Also impressive at this point.
oh yeah, definitely. And the important things to talk about is they go from frog to rock radio friendly style music. They start to adapt to the influences that are going on at the time. Now, the Police were fucking huge. New Wave was huge. So they took
Yep.
reggae influences, ska influences,
Yep.
and that new wave influences that you can hear, but keeping the odd time signature and the conceptual themes. So I got to talk about the intro to the first song, "Spirit of the Radio." I, I
Hmm.
I know we've talked so much at the temple about might
Hmm.
be my favorite. It's my favorite, one of my favorite Rush songs. I say that about every song, every Rush song, right? But
I I was gonna say it's probably, I would say, of every Rush song, the greatest Rush song of all time. But this one, I would say, definitely the greatest. Emphasis on greatest.
oh yeah, and the cool,
And I love what you said, the intro.
the intro. Okay, so every rock band who's notable has an intro
Yeah,
song. Led Zeppelin, rock and roll. When Bonham hits
uh,
that snare drum,
absolutely.
oh my god! Every time I saw Rush and I heard the lights go on and
Yeah.
Alex do intro, I was just like, goosebumps. But what makes it for me amazing is the bass and drums in the very beginning. You know, that whole you know. Well, Alex is doing that riff. Every bass player and drummer should definitely learn that. It's like almost impossible. It's phenomenal. And I think they were influenced by a song called Nobody's Fault But Mine by Led Zeppelin off of Presence. It has similar bass and drums that I think they might have been, borrowing from. This is my opinion. So what is it about? I'm just gonna give you my interpretation. It's how radio impacts people's lives. Now, the way I took that, I grew up in that era, and I'm sure you did too. Radio was so important because radio gave us music for a party. Some people would just put the radio on WPLJ,
Absolutely.
then for funk WBLS. My grandfather, God rest his soul, he would listen to 1010 Wins. You can hear the news on the radio, and you can listen to the Met game on the radio. So you think about how important radio was pre-internet. I think that was an important fact.
Yeah.
Basically, it's tension between artistic expression and commercialism, and using their own experience. So, what they're trying to do is they want to keep their integrity. They don't want to sound like the Knack and play My Sharona. No offense to the Knack, great song, or Tommy,
Right.
like that. But they want to be commercial, but they wanted to keep that like the intro and spirit of the radio. And so what are your thoughts on Spirit of the Radio?
Dude, awesome stuff. Well, first, Spirit of the Radio features the band experimenting with, you mentioned this reggae style in the closing section.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of my favorite parts of the song. As well as the intro.
Yep.
And what's interesting is so this is what's so weird about the song. The Spirit of the Radio, it was a top hit.
Yep.
No, in other words, they managed to reach the top of the charts, but not lose their integrity because
Right.
lyrically, the song is talking about they're lamenting the change of, FM radio from free form to commercial formats. And like you mentioned, no offense to bands like, the Knack or whatever. Most of the bands, record labels aim for number one. Radios would play it number one. So the record execs, record labels wanted number ones. A lot of
And
bands like
New Wave was so
New
hot.
Wave, it was the hottest thing, and
like the car, just to name a few.
huge.
Car,
And video, no, I think Video Killed the Radio Star came out during this time. So already there, this song is talking about, the spirit of the radio, what exactly it is, and how not to lose your integrity lyrically. So it's an amazing song, all in a state. And what's weird about the song is how much melody changes, rhythm changes, they pack into this. How long is the song? It's like a 4 minutes song.
Yeah, and radio friendly songs were like they had to be less than that. There was a formula. They were like 250,
Right.
3 minutes, And then
it was unconventional. Like I said, they put in a reggae beat at the end. So the reggae is not the whole song. They just put it at the end before it concludes. And one more thing that's really cool about the song is that the lines, the prophets were something about the lyrics on the walls.
Yeah, the
I
Paul
think we
Simon.
talked about this.
Yeah.
It's a reference to the Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel. So again, it's such a cool song, honestly, what they're including.
Paul Simon is so different than Rush. Paul
so
Simon
different.
We talked about this the other day, a genius songwriter, and love him.
Yeah.
And you would never think Rush would be listening to Paul Simon. I'm sure Neil was for lyrical content.
Right.
Or drumming, because the drummer in Paul Simon's band was phenomenal. For people who don't know, Steve Gadd, he was a great drummer. So,
and just really quick, some noteworthy lyrics. This is one of my favorite ones. And again, I think this song with Cheech was written by Neil Peart. It says lyrics by Neil Peart.
Yeah.
He has this way of writing lyrics, which is, just look at this line. all this machinery making modern music, that's a reference to the new wave sound. I don't
Yeah,
know if you would agree or disagree.
I agree. I
The
agree.
Police, you know,
Hmm? Or,
making a new
or
kind of music.
the cars
Yeah,
using heavy keyboards. There was a keyboard that came out there in that era called the Prophet, and like there was a band called Squeeze that used it a lot. Remember
that's
Squeeze?
right. That's
Really good.
right.
And no disrespect, I love new wave. We could do a whole friggin' show.
Oh
Here
yeah.
goes
Oh yeah.
an idea. Whole friggin' show on new wave. I love the Plimsolls, the Cars, the Police, Blondie. I
Yeah.
mean, I love Tommy Two Tone. Who doesn't love 8675309? And then
Amazing. No, and a new wave, just really quick, I think it defined the early 80s.
it totally did.
So that
And
new
there's a great,
sound, you know?
if you want to learn about new wave, and it's gonna sound cheesy coming from a metalhead guy, but there's a movie that me and my sister grew up on called Valley Girl. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a Nicolas
I
Cage movie.
I
Now
I
it's
heard about that movie.
like a cheesy 80s, early 80s movie about kids in high school, like Fast Times at Ridgemont High kind of, but the soundtrack is fucking brilliant. Every song is new wave. I think it came out in 82, 83, and it's phenomenal. If you want to learn about new wave music, get the Valley Girl soundtrack,
There we go.
you know. All right, so the next one is
Oh,
I
wait,
don't know.
wait, just wait, Cheech, one more thing. One more lyric that I think that's pretty important in this song. Um, so okay, so all this machinery making modern music can still be open-hearted, not so coldly charted. It's really just a question of your honesty. And
Question of
then
your honesty.
he
Yeah,
honesty, and then he follows it up. One likes to believe in the freedom of music. Again, Rush is all about freedom, free will,
yeah.
right?
I did have something in
And
my
then
note.
he's
The
and then he continues, but glittering prizes and endless compromises shatter the
yeah,
illusion of integrity. Oh my goodness.
because they want to keep that artistry going. It's all about art.
It's like no, it's like self-autobiographical, right? In a way.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So it's
They're,
not really a
they're
critique in general, but more at themselves. Like how do we do this?
yeah, they're almost like when somebody goes to a therapist, uh, get telling you their feelings in a
Yeah.
way. Listener can.
Yeah.
It's. I mean,
That's a great way of thinking about this.
they're confessing to you things that are going on that
Right, right. And it's
you know.
funny, speaking of therapy and their catharsis is this. They say at the end, for the words of the prophets, and again, they're saying, and it's interesting. I always thought it was prophet as in like the prophets from like the Bible,
Yeah.
but apparently it's profits, monies. I
Oh,
never knew that.
to make money
Look
makes
what they
sense.
said. Look what they say. For the words of the prophets, right, are written on the studio wall, and then they hit you with that concert hall, right? Because you're making money once you hit the concerts, and then
Right.
echoes with the sounds of salesmen. So that is so interesting. I always thought they were referring to a
Holy
prof.
shit.
It's mind blowing. I mean, if I
Yeah,
quickly,
because that somebody is selling their music for profit. And
so it's what do you think? It's like it's I don't say it like I always found Neil Peart to be like he's optimistic, but always ends in a cynical way.
mhm.
So it
Yeah,
ends kind of cynically, you
yeah,
know?
because concert halls is saying that's where the money's going,
Right.
to the music in the end.
And think about it. What draws crowds in? I mean, I'll be honest with you. You have to and this time and during the
Oh
like
yeah.
you said, like let's say like Boston, they were selling out stadiums.
Oh
Journey
yeah.
was already on the
Oh yeah.
rise, right? This is the
Oh
commercial
yeah.
radio, right?
This is
So
mainstream, and not only new wave. Yeah, REO Speedwagon was huge.
oh,
Sticks was huge.
sticks, right, right, right.
All these great bands were Paradise Theater by Six had just come out. I think REO Speedwagon was all over the radio. I mean, Boston was over at the time. They broke up by '79 because of legal things with the record label, but they were still selling millions of records at
Right,
that.
right.
It, that's a great point. Um, so man, we should do a whole show on Spirit of the Radio.
I was gonna say, well, let's move on. I'll be honest with you. For our fans, we will return to some of this stuff. Like
Oh
we just
yeah,
have so much that but we'll return one day to dissect the spirit of the radio. But
Oh
okay,
yeah.
so the next song, which I consider probably their greatest of all time, my greatest favorite of all time, one of the greatest songs ever written, one of the greatest rock songs, one of the greatest just for what it is, and also one of one of the Rush songs that for some reason I love so much. And maybe you can shed some light. Why? I think it's
Well,
your favorite too, right, Cheech? Like I know
yeah,
we
because
talk about this
I'm gonna
at the
be honest.
temple.
I'm gonna tell a quick story. The first time I heard this was I was in sixth grade, and I had a slumber party. And speaking of the spirit of the radio, me and my good friend, this kid Scott Harper, were up. All the kids were sleeping. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning. Put the radio on, and a song comes on. I'm in sixth grade now. I'm like, Scott knew everything about music. He's one of the guys who taught me so much because he had an older brother that was, you know, knew everything about music. So I was like, I know this is Rush. What is this? What song is this called? He goes, Free Will. And that was my introduction to Free Will. Maybe I was fourth. No, it was like fourth grade because it was 1980. So it had just come out. I didn't know
Wow.
what it was. Yeah. So props
Wow.
to Harper, wherever you are. So Free Will. Now, the concept, now this could take another episode.
I was gonna say,
I
so
mean,
I guess Cheech, let's start here. So first the song was written by Neil Peart, another one.
yep.
Uh Speak on the music, the musicality, like what's going
Okay.
on?
Great example of Moog Taurus pedals, where Getty puts his feet down and it sounds like keyboards. You totally hear it over the main riff. Down, you know, that whole thing. You hear these keyboards. And I noticed that the first time I saw Rush, Getty's hitting these foot pedals as he's playing the bass. So that keyboard sound you hear is a Moog pedal. You know, that's
Oh, so wait, that's connected to his bass.
no, it's a keyboard pedal. So we can play keyboards when he's
Oh,
playing the
okay.
bass. So next time you listen to Free Will and you hear the main riff, the instrumental section, and you hear keyboards, it's not keyboards, it's Moog. It's a Moog, it's the
Wow.
foot pedal, you know.
And,
And a lot
wait, and
of guys,
remind me, this was new technology in a way, right, at the time?
um, well, it goes no, not really. Moog goes back to well, the
Oh,
pedals
wait,
might,
I know where you're going with this because it
yeah,
was already a thing. Okay.
yeah, and probably used them. Chris Squire used them. They
Yep.
were
Yep.
but he used a Taurus 2 or 3. So I think Getty had the brand new set of Moog pedals for probably off of on Farewell to Kings, you know, which I've been looking for years, and they go for like thousands of dollars. So you know, musically, it has an incredible bass break that's just insane. Where Getty's just playing by himself with the drums, and then Alex goes into an incredible guitar solo. And then the pre-chorus, if you're a drummer and a bass player,
Hmm.
those hits are so syncopated and sick, like, and they change every time. They're never the same. Like,
Wow.
good luck learning this song, man. It takes a long time to get it down. Whenever I see a band do Free Will and they nail it, superior musicians. It's like they've studied.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And not to mention, it has the I don't know what part of the song of rhythm part was which I always love, which goes like down, 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 down. Like, and that's what you're referring to, right? That bass.
Yeah. Yeah. That part,
Yeah.
that fear the Moog.
Amazing. And
And then,
and people have to see Getty play this live. Like
well, musically, the riff is pretty simple, but when Getty sings, he changes it with 2 beats. So he changes the riff. I think it's like 6/4 or 7/4 as he's singing over it. I can't explain it. You'd have to like listen to it. So he does an alteration on the riff while he's singing it. You know, it's probably one of my favorite pre-choruses by Rush. The
yeah,
down, down,
agreed.
down, down, down. You know that part. And you know, musically, I think that's about it. And here's an important one, and I'll let you take the reins on this. The inspiration, where it comes from. So, do you know who the philosopher was on free will?
A certain Frenchie, right?
A Frenchman, yeah,
John Paul Sartre.
of course.
Well,
And
you know what? Wait, pause there though. So this is interesting. I could be totally wrong, but I love how you mentioned John Paul Sartre because lyrically, I think of Ayn Rand, right? That idea of, or Nietzsche as well, that free will
yep,
and
hmm
embracing that, right? But I totally agree. John Paul Sartre is all over this
and
because
Orwell, George
a-
Orwell.
and George Orwell, and we're gonna find out why, right? Because okay, so you talked about the music, you did an
Yeah,
amazing job,
and
and
I
so
always got to bring this guy up, Crowley. When it comes to will,
we'll
not
talk
that.
we'll talk about that. Quick,
that
1 minute. Why Crowley and Aleister Crowley? Why?
yeah, do what thy will be the whole of the law. So his thelema philosophy was all about one's will. You know, um, I don't think I'm sure Pert might have read Crowley, but never wrote about him. Like Jimmy Page was all about, So I've always liked that. Do what thy wilt. Be true to your true will opposed to your conditioned will. Like our conditioned will is the temple. Our true will is doing this, music, you doing your studies, your teaching. That's our true will. Those are the two concepts I got out of Crowley, but different episodes. But it definitely applies to this song, I think.
Oh yeah, because again, we're talking about free will, and
Oh yeah,
what the band is trying to well, what you just said about Crowley, right? You said conditional will, right?
yeah, yeah.
So because the song asserts free will, and what they do within the song, and what's interesting, why Sartre comes into play is because, see, John Paul Sartre rejected um anything that had to do, first of all, anything that has to do with God, right? Continuing the Nietzsche kind of element.
Yeah.
And what we have
Existentialism.
left, right, and what we have left is our existence. So how do you define your existence? Well, you assert your free will. And then how do you assert your free will? So Rush doesn't really tell you the answer, but they try to lay out a picture, right? So they start out by saying, those there are those who think that life has nothing left to chance, with a
Hmm.
host of holy horrors. I love that phrase, holy horrors,
Yeah.
to direct our aimless dance. So I think what they're talking about here, and Cheese, you can disagree or agree, um,
Hmm.
sort of the human predicament that Sartre was writing about,
Yeah.
Nietzsche was touching upon, right? And
Yeah.
Ayn Rand sort of provided her answer to, even though a lot of people disagree.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So it's interesting how he's mixing these already in this like first stanza. I'm viewing this as poetry, but in this first
It's
stanza,
total poetry. Total poetry.
yeah, no, for sure. And this is funny. And then he continues, right? And then he takes on, this is just my opinion, sort of like, from the God perspective. He says, a planet of playthings, we dance on the strings. And again, who's pulling the strings? Well, let's keep reading. Of powers we cannot perceive, the stars aren't aligned, or the gods are malign. Blame is better to give than
Then
receive. Right. So I think what they're talking about here is religion and how people will say, oh,
yeah.
well, it's God's fault, right? The idea of original sin and
Exactly.
Christianity, right? That's what they're talking
That's
about. Now,
so
again,
true.
they're not critiquing anything. They're providing the situation, right? So
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
then
I think
no, and
you said it all on that pretty much. Trying to think where my I don't know how's Mrs. Doubtfire.
5 minutes
Okay.
ish.
Choices are they premeditated or do we have control over them?
Well, see, you know what's funny about that, and this is why the Rush song is so brilliant. So, okay, couple things in philosophy, that's still an issue. We don't
Yeah.
know, and it conflicts with biology, especially Darwinism.
Right.
And Freud in the obviously 1900s will start the psych revolution, the psychology revolution, where he'll look in the unconscious, right? And start to say, well, are we really in control? Who's really in control? Who's pulling the strings? And then obviously from a religious perspective, and I'll just speak of my expertise on Christianity,
Right.
we free will is a gift that God endowed us, but we use and abuse, right? So, and that's the source of original sin. And so our free will is tainted by original sin, which is why, when we make our choices, even though we can make the good choices, we usually make the bad.
And Eve, you just froze up for a second. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I
No,
I
go
didn't
ahead.
catch.
Good.
So no, Adam and Eve, I was gonna say like
Oh
that.
yeah, I was gonna say Genesis.
Yeah,
That's
total. That's the free will. She ate the apple. And that's where in religion I think free will would start from. Would you say?
oh yeah. Well, because what they're trying to answer is a lot of especially Christianity, but what a lot I think religions are trying to examine is, you know, why did the creator give us free will if we just end up doing bad things?
Right.
So
Why don't we do good things?
religion tries to answer that. And but the bottom line is that free will is a gift from God. So it's a gift,
Yeah. Yep.
right? Because
Well,
right, so
I've always felt that, and I said this before, and I think you said it doesn't go with religion, but like the only thing I think in life we have is what we know that we're born, we're gonna die, but in between that, we have free will.
you know what's funny, and that's what see Sartre, Nietzsche, Ayn Rand. These are famous philosophers that rejected Christianity,
Yeah.
rejected this idea of God. So they try to answer. So yeah, so they start there. We're
Yeah.
we're born with something. We're born with this free will thing, but then what do we do with it? Instead of, I guess, what I'm trying to get at, and I think what Rush are trying to get at in this song is they're where they start. So
Yeah.
in religion, uh God gave us free will, and so we shouldn't
Yeah.
abuse it, but use it for
Right.
good. Meanwhile, these Rush and the philosophers and Aleister Crowley as well, they say, well, we got this. What do we do with it?
Right. 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 And you can do anything you want with it. That's and hopefully it's good.
Well,
You, you,
no, and just to quote Rush, you can choose a ready guide in some celestial voice. If
Mhm.
you choose not to decide, still have made a choice. You can
Right.
choose from phantom fears and kindness that can kill. I will choose a path that's clear. I will choose free will. Right. So
Right.
another great Rush anthem on free will. Like,
Hmm. And I think it brings up the nature of reality, chance, and fate. So the
yeah,
choice that we make through our free will creates
yeah,
our own reality, destiny. Our chance by making a choice. There's a chance you're going to meet, your perfect bandmate, your perfect soulmate. And then fate. Is fate a real thing, or is fate something that doesn't exist and everything's a coincidence? You know,
and it's funny how you
this is
mentioned that. No, it's funny how you mentioned that because all the way at the end of the song, after the instrumental breakdown that you kind of talked about,
yeah,
Getty comes back in and says, each of us, a cell of awareness, imperfect and incomplete. Genetic blends. And again, here that now they're talking about the science Darwinian perspective, right? With uncertain ends on a fortune hunt that's far too fleet, right? So here they're talking about the fate aspect of it, So what
yeah,
do you do with free will, right? You assert it, and you have the
right,
ability
right.
to make choices. And even if you choose not to decide, you still make a decision anyway.
Mhm.
So they're getting at this kind of like tension between choosing and not choosing, and that's the answer. According to Rush, and they're
Right,
distilling all
right.
this
Yeah,
philosophy, that's where free will comes from.
yeah. So like by not making a choice, by not doing anything, you still made a choice. It's your free will.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think covered a lot on that, and I guess we can end with Free Will because Mrs. Doubtfire is probably about a minute.
Yep.
So, yeah. So, well, we got in this episode. We only got to two songs, which is crazy.
I'm, t- I'm telling you, I mean, we're gonna drive people nuts, but honestly, I feel they have to understand this album and Moving Pictures are probably the most important albums that
Yeah,
Rush ever created. I mean, all of them are important, but
yeah.
you
And you
know,
have to listen to the lyrics and understand them. This
yeah.
isn't Poison, where you just putting on a Poison album and let's party. Let's do some funnels beer and
You,
see some girls' tits.
you,
No,
you know what's fun? You know what's funny about that? And I guess we'll end here. Yeah, no, a lot of yeah, you know, I feel like rock music can be in two camps. You know, you have bands like
yeah,
the Motley Crues, yeah,
yeah,
Poison,
yeah, yeah.
um,
Not just
and
Poison like them, but you know what I mean.
no, no, I love them, but
Yeah,
see, it's not all about fun, right? And I guess this
yeah,
is why a lot of people maybe don't like Rush because it makes you think. Like you actually
yeah.
have to go into lyrics. Their music is challenging at times. Not this song, but you know, they pull you in and with their music, and Free Will is a perfect example of this. And examine the lyrics for those that only listen to Poison or Motley Crue. They're gonna be like, "What the heck are they? Where are the girls? Like, where's the fun times?"
All right, so we stopped off at Free Will. Any last thoughts on Free Will?
Yeah, greatest song of all time, greatest Rush song, my favorite song, and probably um one of the greatest rock compositions ever.
Oh yeah, I mean like radio. Going back to the radio friendly, and who puts a bass solo in that? Like that
Oh,
insane.
no, for
Yeah,
sure. And but you said, you know what's funny? I was Free Will is on my constant rotation of songs I
yeah,
listen to,
yeah.
and I noticed that synthesizer you were talking about.
Yes.
Dude, you can't unhear it. You're pretty amazing touch.
Yeah, that's the move. And I studied Free Will so much that bass solo. Getty makes a little mistake in it that he kept. Like
Really?
a
Wait,
little
explain.
like a little clicky. Every now and then when you're in the studio, you do like a little clicky on the bass that like it's a little off. And I just studied it so much, and I was like, wait, that sounds a little off, but you can't hear it because he's playing 1,000 notes. So when you play like that fast and you make a mistake, it's hard to tell. This is just my
Really?
my analogy of it. Yeah, because like it's a little subtle thing. 'Cause I learned that
Wait,
one.
Cheech,
Yeah,
and what does it sound like?
it's hard to explain. It's like a little clicky sound on the bass. Like he
Really?
hits it a little too hard at one point. It's a dynamic thing. And I guess instead of like, this is just my opinion on it. Instead of going
Of
back and
course.
redoing it, he just probably left it in there.
It
Just
is it the sound I hear his bass playing. Now, I'm not a bass player, not a musician, but when I hear his bass playing, I hear bam, bam. Is it that?
it's just that
Like,
like like right when the bass solo takes off and he starts going crazy. It's this weird little thing. I mean, I
oh
probably
wow.
listened to that about 100 times, maybe 200 times, to try to learn it. And
Mm.
once you listen to it, you pick up little subtle. It's amazing how, like, even in the Lemon song, John Paul Jones slows down a little bit. It's like once you're studying these little bass lines, you pick up on these little like new. I'm not gonna say a mistake, like
Nuances, nuances.
thank you, you know, um,
That's
and
amazing. I never heard that before.
yeah, you won't be able to unless you really sit there and like listen over and over for 50 times and then go, wait a second, that sounded different than that note. I don't know. I just got obsessed with it when I was a kid. So
Wow. Yo, I'd imagine if we had Getty, like if we were interviewing him, I would
yeah,
wonder what he would think about that. That's pretty
he
cool.
probably would be like, I don't remember. Oh, speaking of that,
was-
I sent you and I sent Joe the Conan O'Brien interview.
yeah, I
That
saw
was
that.
amazing,
Yep.
amazing.
Yeah.
It was so cool how that dude was like us, Jordan, whoever his partner, like a Rush fanatic, and he's trying to tell Getty this, the other thing. And Getty's like, I don't remember. I mean, it's like, but the cool
That's so
thing is,
funny.
it kind of interweaves with this show because he talks about the studio and permanent waves. And the
Hmm.
important thing
Hmm.
was the digital computer mastering at La Studio. That's why they went there, because it was so ahead of its time. And they were getting away from analog. I don't know if Permanent Waves was recorded on analog and digitally mastered. That'd be a great
Mm.
getting question. But
Mm.
that was happening in 1980. Most bands, I think Steely Dan did it with Asia. They went all digital or
Mm.
half digital. So that's a
Wait, Cheech, and because they did that, do you think that's why like Steely Dan's Asia is
yeah,
considered one of the best sounding albums? Does the
yeah.
digital aspect have something to do with that?
Has everything to do with it because it came.
Well,
What year is that? 78, you think?
about.
Yeah,
Everybody search it
that's
up, but
even
that would
early.
be right.
That's a little earlier, and I think this might have been, because like I think when they got into that digital thing, it
Mm.
just sounded so much better than analog. Not to me. I like analog, but to
Right.
that time and to listeners, and Getty even talks about it with the Conan interview. The guy's bringing up like CDs, and do you hear the difference when they remaster stuff? I don't. I don't hear that difference. Like a lot of people might hear a difference in remastering. Maybe if you're an engineer and you're trained for that kind
Mm.
of that hearing, but uh, I wonder if Permanent Waves is analog and just mixed to digital. That's what I think it is.
That would be an interesting question to ask Alex or Getty if we ever have them on set.
Could you hear me?
Yep, yep. Keep going. And I'll cut this off later.
Yeah. All right. So where were we? I don't remember.
So we're gonna finish off on Free Will.
All right.
Um, Now we're gonna head towards the next track, Jacob's Ladder.
Yeah. Okay.
So
All right.
this is a almost 8 minute song.
Yep.
Another of their proggy masterpieces.
Yep.
Do you want to lead us into that one next track?
Yeah. So let me get my notes on Jacob's Ladder. Well, obviously, you know, you being the religion teacher, you know a lot about Jacob's Ladder. Is it
Yeah,
Genesis 28:10? Is that the?
Gen it's Genesis 28.
Yeah.
It's a dream that Jacob, one of the patriarchs, right, of the Bible,
Yeah.
has, and I actually pulled up the Bible verse, so it's pretty cool. I think we're not trying to I'm not trying to evangelize people or like tell them what
Yeah.
about
Yeah. Yeah.
religion, but just for the context of the song, right? Because
Mhm.
it's a big component. It says here, Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him, right? So Jacob is Isaac's son. Isaac is Abraham's son. So if anyone's ever read the
Right.
Old Testament, right, there's
Yep.
a lineage. They're called the patriarchs, like the fathers.
Hmm.
And then what ends up happening is Jacob ends up getting married.
Yep.
Uh, he has a dream at this place called Bethel, right?
Hmm.
And I'll just read this. So Jacob left this place called Beersheba and went toward Haran. He came to a certain place and stayed there for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head and laid down in that place. and he dreamed that there was a ladder set up on the earth, the top of it reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And
Right,
the
right,
Lord stood beside him and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham, your father, and the God of Isaac. The land in which you lie, I will give to you and to your offspring. Right. So the point is it's a dream in the Old Testament, Genesis 28.
right.
So it's kind of interesting how Rush decided to make this the title of their song,
Yeah,
and it's very similar to the trees and hemispheres,
right, right.
where
Definitely.
they personify the something from nature, right? So kind of creating like a little myth.
Oh yeah.
Very interesting.
I mean, I think what Neil talks about, he doesn't rewrite like what you just said. He doesn't write exactly that.
No,
He
no.
interprets it in his own way. Uh, it's like Jacob's ladder, self-discovery, facing challenges and temptations, which you mentioned. And the ladder could be a higher state of consciousness.
Mm.
The music is it has a lot of tension and a lot of drama musically that's going on in the song.
Well, I was gonna say because
It's almost
I
like a
call.
play at times. You feel like you're listening, you're watching like the music of a play because it goes really down, then it comes.
Oh yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Like an
You know
overture, right? Like a
exactly.
beginning of a. It's very cinematic. It's
Oh
probably it's
yes,
like
yeah.
when I put on my headphones, and again to
Yeah.
all our listeners, listen to this song, get a nice pair of headphones.
Oh
It
yeah.
trans like it just sparks the imagination, and
Oh
that's what's
definitely.
really cool about the song.
Yeah, and it's so cool they took a biblical thing,
Yeah.
uh, and they kind of dabble with the idea you just said, which was really awesome. The whole concept of it, but they don't rewrite it. They don't. They
No,
they, they
no.
interpret it. Uh, and
Cheech, they Rushify it.
they Russify it. I like. And then the metaphor is meaning and purpose, reason and emotion, and something greater. How's,
Hmm.
how's that? Does that make sense to you
Yeah,
from where his lyrics are coming from? And it's
I
epic.
see I see that because and I love what you said. They're not so lyrically, they're not trying to make a theological statement.
Yeah.
They called it Jacob's Ladder, and because again, for their listeners, they respect the intelligence, right, of their listeners. So
Oh yeah.
they're trying to paint. I feel like they're painting like a like a how should I say like a cinematic experience again because
It it's
mute
so cinematic. Now
so
you
cinematic.
like it's almost one of the most cinematic Rush songs.
I would honest
North hemispheres. It has this like it
yeah.
should you can almost see it being in like a movie.
I was gonna say it sounds to me like an overture. Like
Exactly.
it's the beginning of a play of an epic drama, right?
Yeah.
And again lyrically, Neil Peart personifies I think clouds. Like if you look at the song lyrically, very similar to the trees,
Yeah.
where again they take these like ideas, put them in here, and it's really up. And the song lyrically can be opened up to many interpretation.
Yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Definitely.
and musically it's epic. It's
Well,
prog
yeah.
rock.
As a kid, I knew what Jacob Ladders was from Catechism,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I picked up the Bible, and I have like a Bible from my parents have from like the '60s, a big thick Bible, and I went in there as a teenager and dug up Jacob's ladder and read the story. So
Mm.
got me to read the Bible again, which I wasn't reading in 1986 at all. You know,
Good job, Rush.
yeah, isn't that amazing? Like they're
That's
even
so cool.
they're getting you to read the Bible as well as Ayn Rand, as
It's
well
crazy.
as
It's funny.
Nietzsche.
No, I know
They're
they get you to read all these complicated
all
books.
great place, all over the place, which is amazing.
Wait, Cheech, turn off your camera and turn on again.
Okay, so Jacob's Ladder, I think,
Yep.
you know, religion, pretty amazing stuff, man. They're all over the
Pretty good
place.
stuff.
Yeah, and I love the way you tell the story of it, and I love the imagery of angels
Yeah,
going.
descending, ascending,
Yeah,
ascending and descending. And you
yeah,
know what's funny? A lot of people think it's a metaphor for Jesus because if you know the Bible and Christianity, it's like one
yeah.
epic story.
No,
And Jesus was
This is New Testament.
no. So this is the Old Testament.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah,
But the really cool thing is that Bethel, Jesus was
Bethlehem.
born in Bethlehem, which means house of bread.
Right, right,
Right. So, and essentially what ends up happening is that at Bethel, right, Jacob's going to establish his connection, his divine connection with us.
right.
It's really cool. So from like a religious perspective, it's really cool. And then from obviously from a Rush perspective, when you look at the song lyrically,
Yeah.
it's, talking again, epic battle, battle for the heavens, opening up,
Oh yeah, yeah.
like in a Neil Peart vision. And I think that's Neil Peart, maybe who's gonna write a book or something or on because he loves like those ideas, those symbolic ideas.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like I feel like Neil Peart would have made a good Jungian, Carl Jung disciple.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. And I
And
think his description. I don't know if you've read a lot of Steinbeck, but
I love Steinbeck.
his his descriptions are a lot like Steinbeck. The way he paints a
Yeah.
picture.
Oh yeah.
That's what I love about him.
Oh, I 100% agree with that. Actually, I would wonder, did Neil Peart read Steinbeck?
Yeah, yeah, he definitely
He
did.
did. He
Yeah,
did.
yeah. And I'm going to throw this out there for the listeners, and we talked about it. Read the book Ghost Rider by Neil. He had many books, his travels through Africa on a bike and other stuff. But Ghost
Wait, Cheech,
Rider,
is that an autobiography?
it's his autobiography.
I gotta read. I'm gonna get. I guilty as charged. I haven't read it, so I'm gonna go
After,
pick it up.
after the tragic events that went on in the poor man's life, it's about his healing road, and he talks about a lot of the stuff that he's inspired by and wrote about and stuff. It's probably one of my all-time favorite books in the music realm. The guy was a phenomenal writer, an author. He was a great author as well as a lyricist, as well as a drummer. So it's pretty amazing. So just throw it
That's
there.
pretty cool. And I will say,
Yeah.
I love how you compare him to Steinbeck because just one part of the lyrics, so our listeners can get a sense of just the final stanza. Follow men's eyes as they look to the skies, the shifting shafts of shining weave the fabric of their dreams. And you're right, it does have a also have you ever heard Hemingway, Cheech?
Ernest Hemingway, yeah, sure.
I
Love
don't know
him.
if he read Hemingway, but it does also have that Hemingway would use, for him, like every word and sentence matters. And he would use, kind of like
Well,
this way of,
he used Hemingway. They wrote a song "Losing It" on Signals
oh,
about Hemingway, and I wish I could remember
oh,
the friggin' quote. It's on Grace. Oh, Grace, courage is grace under pressure. I think that's the quote by Hemingway.
wow.
Courage is grace under pressure, and I think that was taken obviously grace under pressure. So he was a big Hemingway fan. Loved Hemingway.
And no, that's interesting because Hemingway and Steinbeck, like they had this way of writing that was direct but
Yeah,
poetic,
exactly.
clear, understandable. But because for them, I don't know if they influenced each other, Steinbeck and Hemingway, no idea.
Yeah.
But for Jacob's Ladder stuff, yeah, I see the influence.
Yeah, and the way they and other songs too. The way he paints a picture, and even his writing style. I'm gonna say his writing style in his book is a lot like Steinbeck. a lot like John Steinbeck. You
Mhm.
know, I recommend that book, the Ghost Rider, The Healing Road, if you haven't read it already as a Rush fan. It's a long read, but it's a nice read, and it's I mean it can get really sad. It'll have you in tears at times because it's
Yeah, because that scene is heartbreaking. The whole
what happened to this man was heartbreaking. I can't imagine like what he went through. It's just so sad, and he came out the other side. So it's also that hope. They always like Rush always comes out the other side,
Mhm.
and even in the worst possible circumstance like that, you losing your wife and your daughter. Neil, he got through it, and he ended up meeting a younger girl. They get married, and he had a kid. He had a young child before he passed away.
Oh, oh
So he
wow.
had like a
I
second.
didn't know that.
He had a second life again. He was given, like remarried to somebody, and he had a kid. And unfortunately, why these things happened, he had passed away with brain cancer,
Mhm.
which is awful. But
Yeah.
yeah, so Jacob's Ladder. Now the next, what was the next one?
Okay, so the next song is Entre Nous.
Okay, I can never pronounce that. Thank you. Entre.
I don't know if I'm butchering it as well. It's Entre Nous, like if with a French accent.
Yeah, Entre nous.
Entre Nous.
Yeah.
I have no idea, but that's the next song, Entre Nous.
Yep. Should actually. I think Rolling Stone, from what my research, loved this one. Rolling
I could see
Stone
that.
said this was
No,
like Rush's best song.
no, and we talked about this because Entre Nous, I think it was a single, but it's not one of those songs that really made an impact, even though it should be like big.
Oh, should be
It's
huge. It was like,
accessible, it's poppy, it's the lyrics are very nice,
yeah,
um
there's so many, songs by Rush. Like go back to 2112, right? There's a song called Lessons.
Side 2,
It's
Cheech,
amazing. It's
Cheech,
fucking
Cheech.
yeah,
No, Cheech. Any song on side 2 should have been a hit, especially in like 70s
exactly.
like FM radio. I'm surprised. Like
Something
I
for
don't know what's up with that.
nothing, Lessons.
Oh,
And they always, Rush always has like, all right, they got the two hits in a row, Spirit of the
yeah.
Radio, Free Will. But this one, like, it got lost. I don't
You
know
got really
how.
lost. No, and it's funny because we talked about this, I think off. Oh, I'm not sure if we talked about this on the air, but we talked about how I think his name is Billy Crogan of the Smashing
Yeah,
Pumpkins
yeah,
said
yeah,
this was obviously his favorite song because it's one of the few songs he talks about in
yeah,
detail, and how he put on this song to communicate with his parents because
right.
they had a lot of trouble, but he really felt this song.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
surprised it didn't have a bigger impact, you
yeah.
know?
And it's funny when you said, what's his name? Billy Corgan.
Billy Crogan or Cogan? I'm sorry for butchering
Yeah.
his name.
I
Smashing
like, I
Pumpkins lead singer.
actually, I'm not a huge grunge guy, never really was. But like, besides the big four, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots, and Pearl Jam, Smashing Pumpkins were, I actually liked them. I thought they were good, but I never would thought that dude would listen to Rush.
Yeah.
Like when I saw that, I was so impressed with that guy. I was like, damn, this is,
Yeah, it was
that's
funny. I think
pretty
we talked
amazing.
about it. I couldn't even recognize him. I didn't know that was him because he's wearing like
Yeah,
he looks like a mountain man. Like he's wearing like a
yeah,
hat.
yeah.
I was like, wait, that's him?
I actually liked his voice. I thought Smashing Pumpkins were different. They had a cool thing. So yeah, and bringing up Entre Nous, and you know what the French meaning of that is?
I think it's between us, right? So
Between us.
In Spanish, entre nosotros, very similar.
Right, right.
Between
Um,
us.
so between us, it's taken from one again, Anne Rand, the Fountainhead. It's in there
Another
somewhere.
interesting fact.
Yeah, she's always creeping up, and it's not really Anne Rand
No,
ish,
no.
but it my research is it talks about relationships,
Mm,
emotions, to express oneself honestly,
yeah.
like, I mean, like relationships, is it a relationship obviously between a man and a woman?
Yep. But
I'm pretty sure.
before you
Yeah.
continue, check this out. I found this little, I don't know if this is true or not. I found it on Wikipedia that the song so there's a guy named Robert Telleria. I don't know who this is. I don't know if he interviewed Neil Peart. He says it captures the sense of rapport that Neil Peart feels with members of the audience.
Oh, so it's a
So,
relationship towards the audience.
the relation, yeah. So if that's true, when Neil wrote the song, it's trying to describe his relationship with, yeah, with the audience.
Wow.
So I don't know if that's true. It is from Wikipedia, so trust it with a grain of salt. But I'll be honest with you, it kind of changed the meaning of the song for me because if you allow me to just quote a part of the song, he says here, "We are strangers to each other, full of sliding panels, an illusion show, acting well rehearsed routines, or playing from the heart. It's hard for one to know."
Wow. So
So
that
honestly, given
it
that
could
light, it would make
really,
sense.
it would make sense, that then it's between the relationship of the fan to the band.
Yeah.
I always thought it was maybe the relationship of just relationships because
Which can it
like
can be taken that way too.
yeah, and it could be like a relationship between you and your cat, you and your best friend.
Yeah,
Doesn't
yeah,
necessarily have to be your
it's
wife,
universal.
spouse. Yeah. And relationship is that's a good philosophy. Like a relationship could be with anything. Could be with yourself. You can have a relationship. You know what I mean? Like
It's funny because that's to define a relationship. You think it would be easy for philosophers or even like a psychologist, but yeah, that's one of the questions. How do you define a relationship? And at one point, is a relationship not healthy or natural or whatever? Like
yeah,
you're
yeah,
right. You're
yeah.
right. It's
I
and going
mean,
back to song. There's a line here that's really interesting that I like. It starts off the song, "We are secrets to each other,
mhm.
each one's life a novel no one else has read." For some reason, I love that line, and it
Yeah.
describes perfectly. I guess in this type of I don't know what do you think? What relationship is being talked about in the song?
He's talking to the audience.
Okay, and
I think
if we interpret it like not from a Neil Peart perspective, like because I like your idea of the relationship aspect.
yeah.
It could be to his cat. It could be to his drums.
Oh, could be relationship could be to anything, if you
Yeah.
think it. So like life like a novel that has not been read. It could be a stranger when you meet a stranger. It's a great way to look at a stranger that you just meet that's
Yep.
interesting to you, and you're reading them like you're reading the
Dude,
first pages. Wow, that's just fucking mind blowing.
dude,
Like
that's mind blowing. And just I'm so surprised this song wasn't a hit for that reason because it could be also a simple, yeah, a romance song.
oh,
Like,
totally.
I'm looking at the lyrics. It's actually, if you were to say this to a woman or a girl, like
Oh,
it's pretty poetic and romantic.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely. I mean, I always thought it was just between us. I always thought that was about two people going through a relationship, maybe having a
That
problem,
too.
or
That
it
too.
wasn't like your typical relationship song like Boston, where Brad Delp, I always bring him up, is getting destroyed by some fucking woman who's breaking his heart into 1,000 pieces.
Poor
Every
dude. Yeah, I know.
song
I know.
from Amanda to
Yeah.
Morgan
Yeah.
Stanley, you know.
Yeah.
But it's done in a Shakespeare like a Shakespearean Steinbeck way. It's done,
Yeah.
you know.
Again, going back to Hemingway or Steinbeck. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And I will say musically, now, I don't know, I always had this idea in my head that musically though, the
yeah.
song doesn't match the lyrics. And what I mean is this, the song is, um, for example, it starts out that nice riff,
Right.
like it sounds proggy,
Yeah.
but then lyrically it's accessible.
Right. Right. Right.
So, and it's not until the chorus it does a nice like acoustic strumming, like just between us,
Yeah.
and does that weird. So, and then at one point in the song, it does a cool kind of like prog riff, like wow, 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 bow, wow. So
Yeah,
I love that
the
part of the
build
song.
up.
Like that's my the build of the bridge, I guess you
Exactly.
would call it,
Yeah, yeah,
Cheech.
the bridge. Yeah, yeah.
So strange musically, it's a great song. Like music, it sounds proggy, but it's accessible at the same time,
Oh yeah, yeah,
especially lyrically. There's nothing to hide, and I love what you said. Yeah, relationships.
yeah. I mean,
Honestly,
and how you want to interpret it is up to you. It could
yep,
be. I like the idea of the relationship of the audience
yeah.
to the band, and I know another band called Fates Warning that they did that with a song about a relationship to the audience. Because think about it, you have all these people that worship you that are coming to see you. You don't know them. You have no idea who they are. You don't know about the
Yep.
know that you're making them happy. You're bringing them joy. That's got to be an amazing feeling, you know?
No, you know what's funny about that? Speaking of that, um, and just to warn you, Cheech, Mrs. Doubtfire has
Right.
crept in.
Yes. Okay. We're
We
not,
have
we're
about nine and a half minutes, okay?
okay. Not bad.
All right. So just to connect it to Shakespeare being on the stage and performing to strangers essentially, right? Cheech?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because this is from, and you will like this. This is from his play As You Like It. This is William Shakespeare.
Yeah.
He says here, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They
Right.
have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being seven ages. Right, and I'll stop right there. But again, when you're performing in front of, like, the audience, I can only imagine what one would feel once you're
And
done.
oh yeah, and the fact that you brought that up, Neil did take a lot from that particular play. All the world's a stage. We are merely players that's in limelight.
Oh, that's right. And
So
Limelight's sort of like a spiritual sequel, to the
yeah,
song.
yeah, yeah. Living in the limelight, like
Yeah,
you're on stage, then you get off stage and you're just a regular person.
yeah.
Oh, but so yeah, so I mean, we can go on and on about relationships with that.
No, dude, it's amazing. But we'll move on. So the next song is Different Strings. And again, we just said that, why wasn't Entre Nous massive? I also think, why wasn't Different Strings massive?
Yeah, and different strings from
It's
my.
accessible.
It's also about relationships.
Yeah.
You know, what I got from it was the importance of an emotional connection that brings people together. It has human emotion and understanding each other. And I like this. I like this one a lot. The bittersweet nature of the memories of the past, because it's
Mm,
low, kind of eerie. It's an eerie feel for it's
mhm.
a song for Rush. It's not really a happy kind of song. It's kind of
No.
say it's dark. And then this one I love, the pain of lost love and the struggle to move forward. Those are some of the
Well,
concepts.
that I love that. And actually, when you just said that, one of the lines that I really love, and actually that would make sense. It's not a happy song.
No.
It's beautiful. It's all acoustic, right? And a few drum.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Look what he says here. This is verse two. Well, actually, the chorus. All there really is, and he sings, the two of us, and we both know why we've come along. Nothing to explain. It's a part of us to be found within a song. So it's like
Right.
very melancholy. It's
It made and then
and
the concept of like the pain of lost love, that's looking at that. Now that can be so many things. That could be the pain of a breakup with a woman or a man or whatever, of a death of a close relative, of an animal.
passion.
Yeah. So those are the elements that I found to be there, and the bittersweet memories of the past.
Yeah, it's very
That
melancholy.
Yeah. So there's a lot of human emotion in that song that everybody can relate to. Thinking about your own one self, because that's what Rush does. I think they make you think about yourself.
That,
They,
you know what? That honestly encapsulates the Rush spirit.
yeah,
Yeah. Makes you look within and at yourself and your
yeah,
place. Whatever's happening, right? They did a really, yeah, they did a good job like in
yeah.
that inward path.
But and that's the philosophy of
Yeah.
Rush. That's the philosopher. Any kind of philosopher is going to make you look within yourself,
Yeah.
and that's what Rush does.
Yeah.
So Mrs. Doubtfire is probably pretty low right
Let's
now, right?
see. We can 5 minutes. So
Oh
we
wow,
would now we I think let's see. And just fun facts. Hugh Symes, right? Because we still gotta talk about the album cover, which we'll
yeah,
do.
yeah.
Um Hugh Symes, right? The album cover artist actually plays piano
He
in this
does.
song.
That is
So
that's
that is interesting. And was he the one that came up with that weird synthesizer effect on 2112? I could be wrong.
that's a great question to ask one of the members of Rush, or if anybody knows that. I don't
Anyone
even
knows?
know what the hell that is. I tried to find like if that's a Moog or that. I think Terry Brown might have done that. Came up with that sound,
Might have
being
been.
in air. I mean, because that's one of the most unique sounds in music.
Yeah.
I don't know what if Devontae's listening, you should sample that.
Yo, Devontae, so your next DJ set before the beat drop, sample that.
Sample that. Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, good thing to like. I gotta Google that, and I did, and I didn't find much on it, on like where they got that sound from. It's like some, and it sounds like outer space. It really has like that. If
Yeah,
we were floating around in outer space, that's what it would sound like. you know,
it sounds like I think that's the effect they were going for, like ship landing or something, and yeah, in outer space.
what is the music of the spheres? I forget which was that Pythagoras.
I think so.
That's what I
Yeah, I
think
think yeah.
the tetrachord or whatever from the planets. That's what I think that would sound like in my brain. But yeah, so ending on different. Oh, and here's another important thing: different strings also meant that people were instruments. So every
Mm,
is looked at as an instrument with a different sound, meaning their sound is their look, their image, how they live their life. So I thought that was a cool metaphor
that's
for
pretty cool.
for people comparing them to instruments, which is
And no, and it's funny you say that because one of the lyrics says here, beat on different strings, but there are times for you and me when all such things agree. Right? So
yeah,
yeah, that metaphor, like each one's a different string.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You know,
That's pretty cool. And again, really cool acoustic song. Another one I don't understand why it wasn't a hit or
very different for Rush. It is mellow, so different than Free Will and Spirit of the Radio. It almost like
Mhm.
they almost took like a Zeppelin approach. You know how Zeppelin
Yeah,
would a bunch of
yeah.
heavy, then go.
Actually, that's a good way of yeah, because like on Led Zeppelin 4, they go with in your face rock, and
Yeah,
then they would do a complete
going to California,
acoustic.
Blackwell,
Yeah,
night and day.
yeah. So very similar. So I guess it must have been the style in the 70s. Oh, well, actually, this is 1980 too, which is actually pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I don't know if Rush was thinking like that, but that just kind of reminds me. I mean, Rush did it in the past. Like 2112 has Tears on it, which is really that could have been an AM radio fucking hit.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so
yeah,
um, so it's not like nothing new, but this is different. This is very different for them.
yeah.
And having the piano solo that you said, and they would bring in other instruments too, like a violinist on
Oh, this is in the future. You know what's funny? This is so, and I was reading so Rush, I think we talked about this. They rarely did any collaborations outside of themselves.
yeah,
So this would be one example, and you're right, the violinist on
losing.
um yep, that's another example, and then we'll talk
And what we talked about at the temple, Amy
right
McMahon.
on their what's that song
Hold,
called?
Unhold Your Fire. Time Stand Still.
Yeah, it's interesting collaboration there.
That yeah, she's got such a different voice. I loved Till Tuesday. They were kind of a one hit wonder, you know. And they she just had a cool look and she had a great voice. And when she's like singing on that, it's like at first I was like, as a kid watching it, going, "What the hell, Amy Mann and Rush?" And then I'm like, "Wow, like this is amazing.
It's
This is
ethereal. I would have had that same reaction if I went from moving pictures to this. Like, what the hell is this? This sounds like my dad's 80s read or whatever.
I can remember buying that album when Hold Your Fire came out. It came out like this time of year, and also Garage Days from Metallica had just come out the same time when they did that EP when Jason Newsted just joined them. I remember buying those two albums on the same day.
All
All
right.
right, so
So go ahead.
different strings we ended with. That was a phenomenal album, underrated Rush song. That in not going to say the French word, just between us, you know, when you pick up permanent waves, don't disregard those two. Don't just skip over them.
Oh no,
Like
no,
they
no.
should not that Rush fans would, but if you're new to it and you're
Yeah.
like, this sounds a little mellow. I don't hear crazy
Yeah,
bass.
no, no,
Actually,
no, no. You
Geddy's.
know what I was gonna say, Cheech? Before you continue, for all the listeners who have, if they choose to listen to Permanent Waves,
Yeah.
don't just stop at Spirit of the Radio. They have more on that album than that
Oh, a
song.
lot more, a lot more. And even like if you think about different strings, Neil's laying down a pretty straight ahead beat. Uh, Geddy's not going. They're actually playing like no normal, a regular
No,
musician.
it's
Not
normal.
maniac.
No, it would sound like something. Well, you know what's funny? I keep saying this, even though the album came out in 1980. It sounds like Styx had one of my favorite songs by Styx is Crystal Ball
Oh my
from the
God, yeah, Tommy
70s.
Shaw. Oh yeah,
No, so in the 70s, a lot of acoustic numbers like this, Neil Young was the king of this. So this is not a typical Rush song. They're actually
no,
playing straight away, and Getty sings very beautifully as well.
yeah. Crystal Ball. You brought that up. That is probably my favorite Stick song.
Oh, I love
And
that song. I am
as
obsessed with that song.
as great as Dennis D. Young is, just to get a little Sticks kick, Tommy Shaw sang his ass off, man. I
You know
love
what's
that guy's
funny?
fucking
No,
voice.
no, you know what's funny? So and again, Dennis DeYoung, he's an amazing piano player,
Oh
amazing
yeah.
vocalist, amazing lyricist as well.
Hmm.
Dude, when Shaw, I'm just gonna use his last name, Shaw,
Yeah.
comes in the band, oh my goodness, with his
He,
guitar playing and
oh
singing, dude,
man.
he brought
He
us.
made him rock out. He made him rock out way
Oh
more.
gosh. And I'm sure pushed Dennis DeYoung, but even going on their song Crystal Ball,
Yeah.
dude, that song just whew, like
That is such a beautiful song. Anyone who doesn't know that song by Styx,
Crystal
YouTube it.
Ball, Crystal Ball.
But
Listen
Crystal
to
Ball.
it.
And check out Tommy Shaw, the supergroup in the 90s. Damn Yankees. It had
Oh,
Ted
that's
Nugent.
wait, he led that?
Yeah, Tommy Shaw, Ted
I didn't know
Nugent,
Tommy Shaw was in that.
and a guy named Jack Blades, who was a Night Ranger, who was a phenomenal singer.
Wow.
Yeah, and I forgot the drummer, but there's a song on there called "Come Again," and it reminds me of Crystal Ball. You should check that out.
Wow.
Come Again, damn Yankees. I mean, ancient. It's ancient now because it was like the '90s, but great band. So we'll jump into Natural
Oh,
Science.
Cheech, before we do, one more fun fact about Damn
Yeah,
Yankees, because I just pulled
yeah,
up the info.
yeah.
The drummer is Michael Cartoloni. I could be
Yes,
butchering his
great
name.
drummer.
And he later is gonna join Leonard Skinner.
Yep,
So this is
yep.
definitely a super group.
Yeah, he was in Skinner for a long. I actually seen him live with Skinner back in the day with my brother-in-law. Imagine this show: Skinner, Deep Purple, and Ted Nugent. I saw that show
Oh
back
my
in the like
goodness.
'98, something like that. Phenomenal.
Dude, that is just dude, the 70s were different, man.
Yeah. But definitely check
Um,
out Damn
check it
Yankees,
out.
man. They super
Check it
groups.
out, and I'll be sure. I'm
Okay.
definitely gonna be listening to them.
Yeah,
Okay,
listen to the song "Come Again."
come
It
again.
sounds like Crystal Ball a little bit. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so next
Now,
song,
natural. Hmm.
Natural Science, cut in three parts. Part one is tide
Yeah.
pools. Part two,
Hmm.
hyperspace, which I think is my favorite. And yours, I think,
Yeah.
speaking for you, your favorite as
Oh,
well.
totally,
And
my.
then
Yeah.
and then finally, what gives the album its title, the third part within the song. And again, it's almost a 10-minute proggy song. The
I
third
know.
part is Permanent Waves.
Exactly. It's so cool how they throw that in there.
Yeah.
Um, and wouldn't be Rush. Rush wouldn't be Rush without having the, like this is the Xanadu, the I'm trying to think,
Wait, Cheech.
Fight Tour and the Snow Dog. There's
No,
always that.
no, Cheech, I was gonna say this is a Rush song. Like it's
Oh
not
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
be for
yeah. This is
everybody. It's not gonna be for everybody. I know
yeah.
Devonte, if we would put this to Devonte, he would hate it.
He should sample this. He should play this at his
Uh,
next.
and speaking of the priests, there's one good one. I don't know if you want me saying it. We're not gonna say the name, but there's one
Right.
priest that's actually been giving Rush a chance.
Oh yeah, definitely,
Um,
definitely.
I'm
Pretty good.
sure she, I'm sure she wouldn't like this song though because
No, no,
it's
you have to
demanding,
be
it's
hardcore.
challenging, hardcore. Yeah, hardcore.
Yeah, you have to be hardcore. So Devontae should play this at his next DJing gig. that that
No,
handsome
no,
guy.
put it on, dude. You're gonna have all like the middle-aged dudes on the dance floor, man. Come on,
Yeah,
Devontae.
it's a great dance number, Devontae. Natural science. So I'll break it down. The concept of natural science and the interconnection to all things.
Yep.
That was Neil's concept of this.
Oh,
Song like
Cheech,
yeah, of
Cheech. Can I just say one thing about the song?
course, of course.
It has a spiritual sequel on Signal's chemistry.
It's connected to chemistry.
No, in my opinion, it's a
I was
sequel.
gonna
It's a
say it.
spiritual sequel.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Oh,
so so
chemistry.
chemistry on Signals, which
Yeah.
that's another Rush album. It's sort of like a sequel to this song, Natural Science,
Yeah,
because
yeah. And that's a great underrated song too. Chemistry.
I
I mean,
amazing song.
Signals is such a we're gonna have. Yeah, I can't wait to do Signals because that's. I
Dude,
mean,
that's one of my favorite albums. Dude, can I say Signals and Grace Under Pressure, dude? Oh my
I don't
goodness.
know.
I'm so shocked that Rush has so many great albums. I don't
It,
even know
it,
where to pick
it
anymore.
just gets better, especially Subdivisions being about Neil's youth. You
Oh,
know, be cool or be cast out and all that kind of stuff.
and how society, gets split up in these subdivisions. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
be
yeah.
cool or be cast out. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I know, man. So okay, so three sections. The first section is the tide pools, uh, microcosms of the ocean. The tide pools are the
Yep.
symbol, is the connection to life. So
Yep.
it
Yep.
symbolizes a connection to life. Um, I don't know any comments on that or kind of
Yeah,
a
so
tide pools, microism of the oceans is the symbol of the connection of life, meaning water is the connection to life. That's where we all come from.
well, you know what's funny about that? Again, I don't want to bring up the Bible here again. Um,
Yeah.
I always see the song as sort of they're trying to describe creation because just pulling this up. So in Genesis, when God's creating you know, creates,
Yeah.
his spirit is over the primordial waters. Like it describes like the waters.
Hmm.
So I always see this song as sort of like a sort of song, and again, in typical Rush fashion,
Yeah.
being very symbolic. Um, and actually, yes, on their song "Closer to the Edge," do something very similar,
Hmm.
where these prog rock bands are, and just look at the lyrics. When the ebbing tide retreats along the rocky shoreline, it leaves a trail of tide pools in a short-lived galaxy. Right, so
Wow.
it's sort of like a And I always see this, you know, it's funny. Rush, for all our science nerds out there, dude, they're describing Darwinian creation here.
Pretty much. It
But
starts off with
you know, it's funny. If we would take a poll of like chemistry nerds or science nerds, and again, this is
yeah,
why this song is very nerdy. They're
yeah,
talking about Darwinian creation,
oh,
evolution, because
yeah,
again, and just one more line. All the busy little creatures chasing out their destinies, living in their pools, they soon forget about the sea. So, according to Darwinian evolution, the first creatures, right, were water-based and they made their way out of the water to
right.
land, right?
Yeah.
So you know, it's I see it as
This
natural.
is
It literally, it's
insane.
natural science. It's in the title,
This is insane. That's an insane analogy. That's beautiful. It makes so much sense
and
going into Darwin.
That's why science nerds, I think, would be Rush fans if they're not
Oh
already.
yeah. Oh man. That I'm blown away by that analogy, man. I love that. And then they take the water now, we're out of the water, using your analogy, and we're going into hyperspace, space and
My favorite
time,
part. Yep.
the mysteries of the universe. So now they're out of the water and space and time, which we don't have control over, right? And the mysteries of the universe, which we don't have control over. So now are they evolved? Did these people evolve into the
Well,
beginnings of cavemen?
well, no. You know what's funny? Cheech, you never saw the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey,
A while ago, yeah.
directed by Stanley Kubrick? There is a crazy scene, and again, I'm just gonna make one more connection here. Uh, so there's a crazy scene where it starts out with primates, or what looks like primates, the first man. And again, this is the
Yeah.
Darwinian evolutionary theory.
Yeah.
They have this insight in the presence of this black monolith, right? You
Right.
remember that black monolith,
Yeah.
which as a further fun fact, is featured on Who's Next album, where they take a piss on it. Which, fun fact, on a monolith looking structure. But
Right.
so they end up discovering that they can use, a piece of a skeleton or something as a weapon. So one of the primates throws it up in the air, and Stanley Kubrick does a transition to the future, where as the bone is falling, it transitions to a spaceship, and they're in
Wow.
space. I love what you said about the because Getty is seeing here a quantum leap forward in time and space. Right,
Yeah.
we're talking about quantum mechanics in 1980, by the way. The
Hmm.
universe learned to expand, mess and magic, triumphant and tragic. Right, I love this line. A mechanized world out of hand. Right, and
Amazing.
and again, and while he's singing this musically, it's just getting into like hyperdrive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's where
Right,
they get into the 7/8. That.
yeah,
Yeah.
my favorite part of the song.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I'm gonna bring up a little bit. I'll get into the music part of it once we get
Yeah.
as that. So would you say now he's the caveman? He's evolved from the
So
water.
so whatever creation they're talking about, which I'm assuming it's us.
Let's blow
Um,
let's blow Joe Silkman's mind on this one.
well, and again, just going back to the beginning, this is the first line of Genesis, right? So
Yeah.
in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void and darkness. And again, sounds like this verse.
Oh
And
yeah,
look at
yeah.
this. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And if we go back to the lyrics, right? Um, uh, when the ebbing tide retreats along the rocky shoreline, it leaves a trail of tide pools in a short-lived galaxy, right? So it's very cosmic.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a cosmic creation story.
And,
But
and I
Rush
like what you
doesn't do
said.
religious. It's more
No. Yeah. Oh yeah. Always
Darwinism.
going. Well, they do
You can
religious with well, and then Jacob Ladder is
well
the
that
opposite
that's
of
that
this.
well that's cosmic myth. Like they're
Yeah.
saying that while the humans are here, the clouds are having an epic battle that they're not aware of, right? There's a battle to see, with light, and there's thunder, and
Yeah.
who's gonna win, right? And meanwhile, the little humans are on the planet not realizing this. So very similar to the trees. But going back to the song, it's pretty much describing, and again, the title is Natural Science. So
Right.
it's a Darwinian, maybe, you know what? I would argue it's a Darwin myth, Charles Darwin myth.
Yeah, yeah.
Like in
It's
Charles
totally
Darwin, because
Darwin. I never even looked at it like Darwin, but it makes complete sense. The
I
way
immediately
way it,
saw it. Like,
the way it progresses, you know, from from the tide pools to the hyperspace,
yeah,
mysteries of the universe, space and time, you know,
yeah,
man's discovery of space and time,
yeah, yeah.
we don't know how long we're here, and you just have to just live your life. And then the last one is permanent waves,
Yep, which is
flow of
the title of the album.
exactly, which is so cool, the flow of energy in the constant change of the natural world. So that's modern times. So now we
So
oh
that's modern times.
holy shit.
And by the way, one line here again. So so humans have, so look where it starts out. It starts primordial, right? The galaxies, right? Each microcosmic planet, a complete society, right? This is the natural pre-human world.
Yep.
As soon as humans, right, start to learn like, how to manipulate time, gravity,
Yeah.
etc., whatever chemical elements and scientific
Yeah.
elements there are, right? Getty sings a mechanized world out of hand. So humans are creating this world that's getting out of hand. And look what he says: computerized clinic for superior cynics who dance to a synthetic band.
Wow.
Sounds like the internet age to me.
Holy
So,
shit. Now we're
so,
going. Now
so
we're talking like maybe Rush was like Nostradamus of their time.
no, Cheech. I'm gonna say this one more time. Look what Getty, look how they describe it. Computerized clinic. Like, dude, that's such a great image. This
Wow.
was 1980. There was no concept of the internet yet, like
No.
wide concept.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Holy cow. That dude, that
And
so you went from little amoebas in the ocean to
yeah,
the primate to where we are now.
creating a mechanized world that's getting out of hand. And you know
That's
what's funny, Cheech? If you study, so Getty repeats this line. So in the second stanza, he says "wheel within wheels in a spiral array." You know that part?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So after the computerized clinic part, he repeats it again: wheel within wheels in a spiral array. Like you said, time, right? Time is
That's
indefinable,
great.
just keeps
Yeah.
moving. And then he goes, science, like nature, again, this is the human, must also be tamed with a view towards its preservation, right?
Wow.
So, given the same state of integrity, it will surely serve us well. The most endangered species, the honest man, will still survive annihilation.
Wow. I,
Okay, where can we go from here, dude? These,
holy cow.
and
This is
I'm
like
nerding out,
this might be the most mind-blowing Rush song, honestly.
analyzing lyrics. Yeah,
When you analyze it, it's like I mean, it's pretty much talking about modern times on the third on
pretty
that
much.
permanent waves.
Pretty
You
much. It's describing modern our so it's describing a modern person like ourselves in this
Yeah,
age of untamed nature and technology.
right.
Internet. We're creating this world and we're removing ourselves far away from the natural part of the
It,
naturalness part of it.
yeah, yeah. We're completely moved away. I mean, there's the positive stuff like us doing this
Yep,
and
yep.
cool podcasts, but then there's you know garbage on the internet that's
So much
insane.
garbage.
And
So much
and what it's
garbage.
and I think just on a side note that the internet has changed the younger generation's minds.
Yeah.
And I think it got into their brains the way that they
No.
think
And think about it. Who
from a
the
psychological.
no, that's and the only the most endangered species, to quote Getty, is the honest man. Like, and again, I'm not trying to say that we're honest, but you and I, our boy Raphael,
Yeah,
um Devontae, one of the
yeah,
Joe
yeah,
Silkman,
yeah, yeah,
etc. Shout out to them. I know our
yeah.
audience probably will know what they're talking about. These are examples of honest men who will still survive annihilation, right? Forming a world, a state of integrity, sensitive, open, and strong, right? So
Kind of reminds me of then, but we won't go there.
No, the temple, right? So we create these artificial
Yeah,
that steals humanity.
the
But
temple
on
goes back to a a little cart on the side of the road, and then buys out its you can buy this to the temple. We will not even go there anyway.
and think about it. If Rush songs connected, if they connected thematically, this
Yeah.
would be the start of 2112 before the priests come in this, new age where they start to take advantage of, technology and
Oh yeah.
suppress man until again, one honest man, the Star Man, discovers
Yeah.
the instrument that will free
Wow.
them. Right, so it's pretty cool. I don't know if Rush had that in mind, but you can connect.
This could
Rush songs
be
do connect
the
thematically.
what do you call it? The precursor to 2112,
Yeah,
leading up
like a
to it.
like a Genesis story to that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Should write a movie about this, man. Write a it should be in the book that we're talking about writing. Me and Manny, just to throw it out there.
It's coming up, coming soon.
Coming soon to a theater near you. So musically, on that, I just got mind fucked by all this. Holy shit! Like that's like heavy as Nietzsche. Uh, get into the music part of it. Uh, Obviously, it goes back to the prog roots.
Yep.
Um, the cool vocal effects. They use different vocal
Yep.
effects, even in the very beginning when Getty's singing acoustically. You know, they weren't known a lot for using a lot of vocal effects, Rush, because they didn't need to. Getty had such a great, unique voice, but they use effects on the intro. Then they get into that 7/8 where they start to do that like that on
Yeah.
his voice, and
This is like the best part.
they use 7/8 time, which they're going to use a lot. So they use 7/8 and natural science, and that's that like that that part, and that's where the vocal effects are. They use
Yeah.
seven on subdivisions, dun 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 dun.
Right.
So if
Oh, that's
anybody
seven.
wants
That's it. Wait, Cheech. That's 7/8 time as well.
that's 7/8 time, yeah. Rush are the
Interesting.
kings of 7/8 time, yeah.
So
Uh,
I don't know what it is about 7/8 time because dude, um, in natural science, when it gets to that part, and again for our listeners, listen to the song, like stay patient with it because it takes you on this like musical journey.
yeah,
So it starts out soft, acoustic, and you're right. Getty has this vocal effect
yeah, yeah,
when he's singing, and then when it starts entering the quantum part, right? It just starts like whoo, heavy, like dun 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 bound and then
oh,
and
that's
you know
one
when
of
it
my
does that
favorite.
effect, what you know when it does that effect like wah, dun
Yeah,
dun 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 dun, and you hear like Neil Peart's drumming,
yeah,
some of
yeah.
his best drumming.
It's
On
such a great groove too. That like
Yeah,
it's such a phenomenal. Uh,
cinematic again,
Again,
sort of
very
similar to
cinematic.
Jacob's Ladder.
Yep. And then it's 7/8, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3. But then they even may dabble into 9/8. They may even throw in some. There's like a weird riff in there that gets away from the 7 and gets into 9/8. So they were using complex meters, which is
Which they were known for. Any prog
oh yeah,
rock
yeah.
band
Oh,
started in the
oh, oh,
progressive
yes,
rock.
yes, U7. I mean, Zappa was the king. Zappa, he was using 15/8 and all these odd things, and so anybody who wants to study prog rock, you have to study odd meter. You know,
Mhm.
and I remember studying odd meter as a young kid in my music classes and stuff, and it's hard because you're used to AC/DC 1 2 3 4 1, and
Well,
then you
you
get
know, it's funny.
little,
It's funny because most music that a lot of people like, especially pop, is 4/4.
yeah, everything
It's
is.
simple, and everything's derivative. There's nothing really. They don't mess with any time changes, right?
The most genius song I think ever written in four using four is "Money" by Pink Floyd.
Oh no, but for
That
sure. But don't they then
that
go to
that's
a
seven
7/8
four.
meter?
That's 7/4. Boom, boo doo
Oh,
doo 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 boom boo doo doo. Now that's 7/4. They took out one beat, and if they added that one extra beat, it would be 4/4 again. So they by taking that one beat out, they sing in it in 7/4, and it's genius. Yeah,
that's amazing.
YYZ. That's 5/4. That's adding a beat.
So they're
Oh,
playing around with the
yeah,
meter.
yeah. So YYZ's 5/4. Money's 7/4. I'm talking like in popular music. 3/4 you don't see much. That's a waltz. That's like something used in classical music. But a lot of these old composers like Mozart, Beethoven, they all used all this shit. They use 7/8, 9/8. This is nothing new in music. This is like
No.
borrowed by the proggy
But
art.
but it's funny because uh, uh, um so in terms of contemporary music, like recorded music,
Yeah.
jazz was famous with playing around with meter and time
Mhm.
changes.
Yep.
And then the next um musical style that embraced it, progressive rock within
Right.
rock music. And also eventually in the future metal.
Yeah. Oh, metal. Yeah, definitely. And
That's
here's
that's
the one. If you want to learn about 6/8, 6/8 is cool because 6/8 is all that 50s music. That 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dot 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 do 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 do. That's all 50s, kind of like Frankie Lyman, Little Anthony and the Imperials, all that heavy hi hat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That kind of thing. You put
it sounds a little fast.
yeah, yeah, or blues. There's some blues where they do 12/8, some which is 6/8 doubled. A lot of blues riffs are in 12/8. I think Whipping Post by the Allman Brothers is in 12/8. I think that's 12/8. I don't know. I'd have to go back and figure it out. Uh, but when you're a musician, like you learn the meter, but then after it, you don't think about it because it messes with your head. You just want to feel it. For me, once I learned, the odd meter, if I counted too much, I would just want to feel it. I always felt everything. Because if
Right,
you
right.
if you sit there and keep going 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1, your brain's gonna go up.
Right.
Oh, then there's 7/8, 9/8, 5/8. I was in a band that did all this shit.
That's pretty
So there's
cool.
like crazy, yeah. And there's a great prog metal band called Fate's Warning that are the masters of odd meter. So you want to learn about odd meter and metal, listen to Fate's Warning. Anyway, I don't know how Mrs. Doubtfire's doing.
We're pretty good. So Cheech, I would love if you describe, and again, I have the album cover behind me.
Yeah.
Cheech, what's going on in the album cover?
It's weird, man. This is a weird
It's
one.
wait, can I say before you continue? I thought that hold on, this
Mm-hmm.
was a nuclear explosion. Like I thought this was a nuclear apocalypse, but it's not.
No, it's not.
What is it? It's actually waves. See the wave behind me? There's Hugh Symes, right, Cheech?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There is yeah, yeah. The wave, yeah. So what I got from it, it's an actual photograph, and Hugh Symes is really tiny back there. Um, it's a photograph that he took, and I'm gonna probably say this guy's name wrong. Flip Schulich of he took a picture of this in Texas of the Galveston seawall during Hurricane Carla in 1961. So mine is the woman, uh, Paula Turnbell, her name is, and mine is Hugh Sims. That's a hurricane. That's a famous picture of a hurricane happening in Texas. Now, Paula Turnbell is the woman in the picture. She might have been a famous model at the time, and she's the woman in Moving Pictures. And when you see that lady and you see the owl,
Really?
yeah, they used her again. She must have
Wow.
been a friend of Hugh Sims, and the man waving is Hugh Sims. So
Right there.
yeah, and he's so small, and he put himself, which is so cool that they put like what the woman stands for. I don't know what you
I don't
Sims
know. It's a strange
for.
album cover. It's cool.
It's so cool. Yeah.
You know, if you see, audience can see, like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you could
Which is so,
totally see the hurricane part of it now when you look at it that way. It's like by the water, it's all water, I think, pretty much.
yeah, right there. And it's
Yeah,
funny, I thought this was a nuclear explosion here
it
for
looks
the
like it.
longest time.
It totally looks like it could be.
But you're right, it's a hurricane, and that would explain why this lady's dress also is.
Yeah, they get a little sexy there. You know,
Yo, I'm like,
she's
yo, Rush. Yeah, they're
not bad
definitely trying to
looking.
be accessible.
When you look at her on moving pictures, she's pretty hot. They're showing a
I gotta,
little.
yo, I gotta see that. I never noticed that.
Yeah. What are they trying to show there? A little. I don't know, a little
Look at
leg.
it. It's crazy. Look at that.
Look at
Look at a little risque over here.
what did Booger say in Revenge of the Nerds? If you look close, you can see Bush. You know what I mean?
Wait, is that an actual line?
Yeah, from the Revenge of the Nerds. I think it was
Wait,
the
wait, on
character
this album.
Booger.
On this album.
No, no, no. It was from a
Oh, that
movie.
would be so funny.
Uh,
No,
Booger.
seriously.
I'm showing my age. Revenge of the Nerds. I don't know. There's a quote I was stuck in my head. This crazy
No,
guy, like frat kids, and he's like, "If you look close enough, you could see Bush." So, I don't know.
no. You know what's funny? Like, I felt bad because if any kids are watching, I'm like, oh shoot, I don't know if I can show this here, but then
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember I had the Magic Man totally nude also back there, so I'm just like,
yeah,
at this
yeah.
point. But
It gives
interesting
too.
album cover though.
But you know what? It's done the way her dress is being pushed. It's sexy. It's not. It's not. You can kind of see her underwear. I don't know. Maybe
No,
I'm.
you can't. I think you can, which is
Yeah.
weird.
Never really
Yeah,
thought about it. Rush using
no,
sex in their album cover, but I didn't never looked at it like that. But
definitely interesting album cover. Like I don't know exactly if you want to comment, I don't know what to make of it. Like Moving Pictures is definitely more iconic
yeah,
because it goes along, because moving pictures is always it can be a metaphor for like cinema movies because they're moving pictures,
yeah.
but also the way mind works with memory, right? Because you can
Well,
describe memory like that, or they have a song "The Camera Eye" on the album as well. But
yeah.
what do you
If
think about this album cover? Like, what do you
if
what
you aim,
what's your take on it?
there are waves, right, in the water like ripples, so permanent waves. Water, natural science. You could think about that a little bit. Um, I'm really drawing a blank on the hurricane. A woman could be relationships, in some different strings. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just trying to analyze what this means. I
What do
would
you
love
mean, right?
love to meet you, Sims, and ask him. But it's very artsy. It's an
Oh,
artsy.
it's
It,
totally artsy.
it's a piece of art, really. Like every Rush album cover, I think, in this era. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much on the album cover. Any more facts on that? On
Um, so one more thing about the album cover that I'm just finding here. Hear this. Upon hearing the LP's title, and Cheech, you pronounce his name Sim or Sime?
use Sims. That's what I say. I don't know if
Okay,
it is.
I'll just follow your lead. So Sims immediately thought of a line of 1950s hair products for women, which offered at-home perms. But he also thought about the many other meanings of the word waves. And he says here, I knew immediately that I'd like to have sort of a Donna Reed character walking away from a tidal wave. Visually, punning was in its early stages with the band. So it's an example of their visual puns, which this is new to me.
I could see the Donna Reed character.
Interesting, right?
If anybody knows what a permanent is, I don't know if it's probably before your time, Annie. If you ever heard of a permanent, back in the day, I'm ashamed to admit I didn't get a permanent. I got a thing called a body wave. So what it was like, it just made your hair poofier. A lot of girls got them in the 60s, 70s, but they got really popular in the 80s. And showing
Hmm.
my age. So that was a homemade permanent kit. It's like, you put all this shit in your hair and it gets curly, that kind of thing. So in the Donna, what is her name? Donna Reed.
She
Uh,
so he wanted a Donna Reed like character,
she
and
was
like she
from
was
when
thinking
Donna Reed.
walking away from a tidal wave. So literally what's happening right here?
Yeah, she was like a '50s, I believe '50s or '60s, like mom type of TV show. I could be wrong, but I remember I don't know what show she was on, but in the '50s or '60s there was like a sitcom show, and she was like on that show. So they must have went with that. Now it makes sense. Why he's waving in the back. It's probably just like a joke or something.
Yeah, no, look what he says here. For the final visual pun, Sim added a photo of himself waving in the background. So again, it's like permanent waves. He's
Right.
waving permanently. So everything's pun.
So she,
That's what's great about Rush. They're kind of like jokesters sometimes.
Anna Reed permanent, him waving.
So waves. It has to do with waves. The dress is waving, her hair is waving. Look at
Yeah,
that. I'm just noticing that right now.
that makes sense. So we
So
analyze.
everything in this album covers a permanent wave.
It's a permanent wave. Use Sims is all right. We analyzed the album cover. Yeah.
All
Um.
right, so Mrs. Doubtfire, we are 4 minutes and a half. Any
Okay.
last minute thoughts, Cheech, on this
Well, no,
album, this
this is an
legendary album?
important. I want to just bring up an important thing.
Go.
Um, the studio that they
Oh,
record that
right, right. Talk about that. Yep.
La Studio in Quebec. So that was the state of the art studio at the time. It was like the Electric Ladyland. If you
Yep.
watch the Conan O'Brien interview with Getty, he kind of talks about it. They had digital computerized mixing there.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know if they went from analog on this album to digital. I don't know, but they
Yep.
wanted to go there to get the best quality 1980 sound, the new standard of recording.
Right.
Gonna uh, change everything for recording. So La Studio was the place to go. Happened to be in their home of Canada. It was in Montreal. Uh,
Right.
Notable bands that did record there after Rush or during the same year, but definitely after the Police, Ghost in the Machine, Rainbow. I think straight between the eyes. I believe Asia recorded their big album there.
Mm-hmm.
David Bowie, The Cult, and April Wine. So this was
Yeah.
a huge studio, and Rush recorded there from I believe 1980 till maybe Roll the Bones, maybe Presto. They stayed there for quite some time. I think it was Presto. Obviously Moving Pictures was recorded there, and they as the '80s went along, I'm sure the studio picked up more '80s, you know, recording things, more digital boards, more digital mixers, and things like that. So that's and there's a great documentary on La Studio. I think I sent it to you. It's in two
Mm-hmm.
parts. A kid goes to La Studio. It's abandoned, it's run down, and you see how shitty it looks. But he goes inside of it, and then he adds pictures about the way it used to look. And he talks about how Rush recorded there and other bands. He talks about the owner. He talks about all the stuff that went on during that time. It's a very interesting documentary. It's about 10 years old now, but it's cool. I don't know what they did with the studios. It was just left abandoned. Actually, in the movie, Neil's there, and they interview him.
Mm-hmm.
He's sitting in the
Mm-hmm.
back, and he calls it like the ruins of La Studio.
Oh, wow.
So I was just always surprised nobody ever bought it and like refined it and made it. It just kind of went to shit over the past years. I think
Interesting.
kind of maybe knocked it down now. I don't know. I'd have to research it. But how are we doing on Doubtfire?
1 minute and 15.
Well,
Oh, good. And
so I would
just quick,
say
wait, quick fun fact. That studio you can see in Rush's music videos, Tom Sawyer, right?
Tom Sawyer and Vital Signs.
Mm-hmm.
in Limelight. Oh shit, yeah, they recorded
You
Limelight.
can so if any listeners, let me see if I can like link those videos so you can see what the studio in its prime would have looked like.
April Wine, April Wine did a video in there. I Like to Rock, I think it's called. And it's funny how like Rush would just record a video of them just playing in the same studio.
That's it. Yeah.
And now as far as
Cool.
me, and I remember watching. You could see Neil doing his drum fills, really cool
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
very end. And it looked like they got the snow in the back, and they release a little German Shepherd running across the snow in the beginning of
Yeah.
Lime. So yeah, Permanent Waves, one of my all-time favorite Rush albums. Please, if you've never heard it, if you're new to Rush, check it out. Learn the beginning of Spirit of Radio.